Say it now. Say the obvious prediction right now.
The Stars are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Hey guys, welcome back to the one and only Starcaster Remarks alongside my co-hosts and my brothers, Chris and James. My name is Ryan Chambers. We are the official Dallas Stars podcast of THPN. And for the third time in this podcast history, the Dallas Stars will be returning to the playoffs starting on Monday. Thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being our sponsor. Use that promo code THPN the next time you are there. We have got a ton of things to talk about and probably more than we will be able to get to tonight, honestly, guys. But first, what I want to get to is how you guys are feeling, just general, auras about you. What are you seeing online? What's the feeling like with you guys and the rest of the Stars fan base?
Well, I woke up this morning at an ungodly hour and took a look at who the Stars were playing, and the first reaction I had was crap.
Absolutely. So for those of you who have been living under a rock and you have not known, the Stars will be facing the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it, but I had the exact same reaction, Chris. I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Who did they lose? They lost to the Ducks, right? In order to get the second wild card. I'm just like, great. Just fantastic. James, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think that the Golden Knights are definitely a hard team to go through in the first round. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I don't think the Kings series would have been easy for the Stars either. It is we played the Kings at their worst this season, and it felt that way every single time. And normally the Kings have a 1-3 trap that's pretty shut down and doesn't let the Stars do what they want. It's annoying, to say the least. It's annoying. And I don't have too much of an issue with who the Stars are going to play in the first round, honestly.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan, to jump in before you say anything.
It's okay.
I was going to say, yeah, it sucks that we're playing Vegas, but they are the only other team in the West that I feel like has a good chance of beating the Stars. This is the Western Conference Final, in my opinion. It's just happening round one, which is unfortunate for us, but maybe down the stretch it might be good for us. Who knows?
So the one thing about this team is the team that we haven't played them since December 4th, I believe, was the last time we have not played them in 2024. And since that time, both teams have kind of gone in literally opposite directions. So the Stars have been fairly consistent all year, but we knew they had an extra gear. They jumped that extra gear and showed it at the end of the year. And the Vegas Golden Knights have faced a lot of adversity, especially when it comes to the injury department. And their injury report is getting shorter and shorter now with the return of a couple of key guys for them, it seems like. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But I do want to get y'all's reaction first, because just to get it out of the way, we won't talk about it very much, but this is a huge thing that has happened in the NHL. And obviously that's the report and now the confirmation that the Arizona Coyotes will be moving to Salt Lake City, Utah. And I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on the whole fact, on just whatever you're thinking about this, because there are so many different rabbit holes that you could jump down when it comes to this story and this reaction from a whole bunch of different people. What do y'all think?
Yeah, the Stars, goodness. The Yotes were given way too many opportunities to try and figure this out in the first place. I mean, look at where we were with the Coyotes. They played 2 full seasons in a college arena that held less fans than the Stars minor league team. And their plan was to be there for 3 more years. I mean, that's insanity. Just the pressure from outside, from NHLPA, from other owners who were losing money due to lost revenue from ticket sales from the Coyotes. All those forces finally caved in on the Yotes. The NHL literally held out on this as long as physically possible. And 5 years in Mullet Arena with not even a confirmation that we would have an arena was enough to get it over with. I'm sad for the Arizona fans. There's a lot of diehard people there that were genuinely upset about losing their team. And obviously it's a good market. They have like legitimate youth hockey in the desert, and they've got a superstar in the NHL that played his youth hockey there. So it's a big deal to spread the sport into places like that. But the way that team was managed and the way that it handled its relationship, they lost a public vote that would turn a dump into a entertainment district. They lost that vote. That's insane. This management was absolutely terrible. So I hope he doesn't get the team in 5 years, and I hope a different Arizona ownership comes back and brings a team to Arizona, because that owner is terrible. The whole management, his whole operation was absolutely terrible.
Yeah. When I first heard the rumors, I was like, finally, right? And then you get to that last game that the Coyotes play at home, and then it gets real, you know. It was super sad to watch the after game when that game ended and everyone just knew. And there are just fans just standing there refusing to leave who are crying, like a lot of them crying. And it's really tough to see. I can't imagine that happening to any. You look at every team in the NHL, they would all do that. Every single fan base would stand in there and make the staff remove them from the facility before they left. I mean,
I was definitely in their shoes watching that, James. I agree. I can't imagine.
Yeah, that completely destroyed me watching. There were, and specifically there was he couldn't have been older than 10, but this little like 9-year-old boy wearing this Doan, Coyote jersey, just completely in tears, and his dad trying to console him. I mean, like that, geez, that gutted me like crazy. So
way to go, Morello.
Yep.
You make little kids cry.
No joke. But there's so many different rabbit holes we could go down, but I just want to ask one question and then we'll get into the series. But is Maruello going to be the owner within 5 years? Because honestly, I don't see it.
I hope he isn't.
I think he will, just with the deal he got cut. I mean, he's going to be able to buy an NHL franchise at half price in 5 years, or more. It could be even less with the deal that he's gotten. I mean, for those who don't know, he'll be able to buy back the team at $1 billion, correct? And in 5 years, NHL teams are projected to go for 2, maybe 3. So
For an expansion fee, yes.
yeah, that would be an insane deal not to take. If he's got any money left, he should do that.
The one thing I do wonder is how successful this is going to be in Utah, which, I mean, based off of what he said right off the bat, that they've sold 22,000 season ticket deposits already. And for hockey, at least, their arena they have is only going to hold 14,000. So
Yeah, it's
I
a
know,
little confusing. I don't know how that works.
yeah. Well, I think it's just like if someone's like, "Oh, never mind, I don't want to do it," then they just take the next person in line or whatever. I think that's how that
I
works.
guess.
But anyway, I do feel for the fan base there. I do feel for just all the players just kind of thrown out of nowhere, and the way it was handled was not very well done either, I will say. And there was a lot of people that were wondering if Alex Mariuello was going to show up for the last game at Mullet Arena. He did not, because it was probably for the best that he didn't show up. So
I think the way it was handled by the league was okay. I mean, they're getting the Coyotes out of there and into a new market that's ready for hockey in less than 5 months. I mean, I'm honestly kind of impressed with the way the NHL is able to turn that around so quickly. I think it should have happened sooner and maybe with a longer time in between the announcement and the first game in Utah. But I mean, for the short notice that they had, I think the NHL did a good job of keeping it out of litigation, which would really extend it a long time, and of getting it to an owner that was more than ready to take on a hockey team and that already has prospects for a new building.
And I actually watched the press conference just about an hour ago with Ryan Smith, who is now the owner of the Arizona Coyotes, moving them to Utah. And he seemed like a really intelligent guy. He seemed like a guy that is the same on camera that he is off camera. Definitely not the same as Gary Bettman, I would say. But I'm excited for it, for him and for the fan base. I just really feel for the Arizona community. And like you said, Chris, the guy who scored almost 70 goals in the NHL for the first time since 1993, he almost did it, is from Scottsdale, Arizona.
Yep.
That's
that would have
just
happened without the Coyotes.
exactly. That is exactly true. So it just really sucks, and we'll talk about it more at another time. But let's move on. Well, was there anything else that you guys want to say about this, and then we can move on?
Nope.
No. Okay. There's so many different rabbit holes we could jump down, but
Yeah.
let's move on. So we found out late last night or the night before, I forget which one it was, that the Dallas Stars will be facing the Vegas Golden Knights in the very first round. We very briefly hit on it at the very beginning of the episode. How are y'all feeling about this in general? Does this suck for the Stars, or is this just kind of whatever? Just before we get into the depth of this,
it's a super unlucky draw to get you won the conference, and your reward is to play the Stanley Cup champion, who's going to get one of their best players back in the first game, and we all know that's true. So it's a tough draw. But that being said, these two teams are the best teams that could come out of the West. So if you take them off early and you don't give them a chance to get their game back, which they haven't had it all year, partially due to injuries, partially due to they just haven't been rolling as good as last year, then maybe you don't see a juggernaut Knights at the conference final. But that being said, whoever you do face at the conference final, they're going to be on a heater too. It doesn't matter who it is; they're going to be playing well. So you could try and find some silver lining in there, but overall, it just kind of sucks. But to win the Stanley Cup, you got to beat some good hockey teams, and Stars are definitely going to have to do that.
Like I said at the beginning with this, I truly do not think that it matters who the Stars play through the entire playoffs. Honestly, they're going to have to play the way they did the final 2 to 4 weeks of the season, regular season. And if they play that way, they're going to win multiple series. I mean,
they are the team to beat. That's correct.
The only other team who had like as good as a stretch down going into this is probably the Rangers. They had a very strong end to the season as well. But like the strongest the Stars looked was going into the postseason now. This is the best we've seen the team play. And that gives me a lot of confidence in terms of a team who we haven't seen since December, who we played 2 games without Ottinger in net. So it's going to be a fun one, I think. I really think it's going to be I think the Stars should be pretty dominant in it still.
So one of the things that I have seen a lot of, and this is just a general feeling of mine, to be honest with you, I think people are more confident in the Stars' ability to win the series than I am in my own team. I know that seems crazy, but it just absolutely scares me, the Vegas Golden Knights and what they can do. They showed what they could do, and they beat the Stars last year. And I know it's different circumstances, but everything that happened up to this point now is moot. It's completely pointless at this point. It does not matter. You are a team. You made it into the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's like the second. It's like we said, the second season, and like everything resets, and the motivation and the excitement of half of the league, 16 fan bases, are there to start the second season, just like we were when we started this season. We were excited about the Stars' ability to do really well this year, and they did well. Now it's got to be proven, and it's got to be shown that when it's taken up to the next level, to the next intensity, to the next significance, importance, that the Stars are able to do that. And I think this is going to be a closer series than I think some Stars fans realize. I don't know why people think that this is going to be a 5-game series. This is at the very least going to be a 6-game series, in my opinion. And if they sweep the Vegas Golden Knights, I'll eat my words. But when you look at the team on the other side, who has Jack Eichel and Jonathan Marchessault, who won the Conn Smythe last year, he scored 40 goals this year. You've got Alex Pietrangelo, who is on the other side. You got Shea Theodore, who is on the other side as well. You've got a goalie who proved in the playoffs last year that he could do it. He just hasn't been good this season in Aiden Hill. And then you've got another guy in Logan Thompson, who's probably had a decent season as well. So they've got 2 options that they could go to. It's just there are lots of intangible things from the Vegas Golden Knights that really scare me. Is that fair?
I don't know. I don't know if
Here's what
anybody
I'll
thinks
argue.
that this would be an easy series.
Yeah. Here's what I'll argue with, though, Ryan. They have a lot of intangibles. We have a lot of tangibles, but they're all the right direction. I mean, we know what this Stars team is. We pretty much know what we're gonna get from them. It's a bunch of ifs for the Golden Knights right now. If they can get back on this, if this person can come in cold and get hot, if, and the Stars are already there, they are in your face. If they don't get 2 or 3 to flip in their direction, the series is going to be over quick.
Yeah, the Stars got one if. Can they play the same way they did at the end of the season? They probably will. They've been doing it for 4 weeks.
Fair enough. It's just those little specks of like uncertainty kind of worry me that something's gonna happen. That's
definitely
the only
true.
thing. And if we had played the LA Kings, though, that uncertainty would not be there at not even in the slightest.
It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. And you know what you're getting with the Kings. You're going to get a team that's going to play, like James said, the trap system, and they're going to annoy you, and you're going to have to win games 2-1. Stars can do that. We know we can do that, and we know we can beat bad goalies. Vegas, they have, like you said, the opportunity to be the team that they were last year. They're not right now, but they've got everything there to be that team. So it could happen. They could flip the switch, but it's a lot harder to do that than to do what the Stars are doing when they're charging into the playoffs while the Vegas Golden Knights are limping in.
And even if we get the Golden Knights from last year, the Stars pushed them to 6 in a way that they never should have been in the series in the first place. I mean, the first, and we pushed them to overtime.
That is fair. That's a good point.
That we lost too. That series could have gone either way too. I mean, if we get the Golden Knights from last year in the first round, it's going to be a hard series, and it really could be a coin flip. But that is a huge if for me. I mean, that is just the percent for me that they come in and do what they did last year right off the bat is very low in my opinion.
And 2 more things there. That Vegas team was better than this Vegas team, and this Stars team is better than that Stars team. So yeah, the Stars are definitely the favorite to win this one, and they should be. And I still think this is going to be a slugfest. This is going to be the best first round series of the playoffs. And I think this is going at least 6. At least. I mean,
All right, see, I guess I disagree with you all. I'm the only one, I guess.
yeah.
So,
I don't. I think just their playoff acumen alone can steal them a couple of games. So I don't think that the Stars team is that much better than the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas Golden Knights are still all there, and they're going to show up more than they did in the regular season once these playoffs start. But that being said, the Stars are still a better hockey team. They are the team to beat in the West, at least, if not in the league.
okay, so let's jump down a couple of rabbit holes here because there's a couple of things that people are talking about in the chat that are very interesting. And obviously my feeling is not shared among a lot of people, which is a good thing, I guess I should say. But I do want to jump to this. And Joe Baker, and this is something we've talked about, we need to mention again. I think Robo will be better in the playoffs this year. He doesn't allow himself to be physically intimidated as much anymore. And that's Joe Baker, if I didn't give him credit for his comment. And that was something we talked about immensely in the playoffs. After the playoffs were over, after we lost Game 6 to the Vegas Golden Knights, we said that Robertson looked better in the Kraken series, and then he was pretty good from there on out. But the first half of the Kraken series, and then especially the Minnesota series, he was physically intimidated and did not show up. And this version of Robo is not at like the national figure like he was last year. It was a guy that probably could score 50 goals is what it looked like last year. This year, he doesn't even get to 30, but he looks like a more all-around player. And he still leads the team by a significant margin when it comes to scoring. So his scoring is still there, obviously at a lower pace. His defense has gotten better. His skating has gotten better. And we saw instances, especially at the end of the year, where if someone pushed him around, he just pushed back and just like, dude, I'm not dealing with that crap anymore. So that is a very good point by Joe. And I'm really excited to see what Robertson can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's definitely found a little bit more of that in his game. And even he doesn't even have to be great at that part of the game either, I don't think. Like, he doesn't have to be the best physical net front guy the way Pavelski and Ben are. He just needs to be able to give Rope a little bit more space. And when he does that and Rope can fly, I mean, that's what's going to make that line effective when Rope can pierce the wall and then Pavelski and Robo can slide in behind and put the pill in the net. So just a little bit more pushback in those times where he needs to be a little bit more physical. And I agree, he's been able to do that during this regular season. So hopefully he can find that in the playoffs too.
The other thing that there's a couple people talking about is the excitement of seeing Chris Tanev in the playoffs. I think it was Ricky Spanish over here who had something. Playoff Chris Tanev will be beast, and then Ardell kind of agreeing with him there. Playoff Tanev, yes. That's going to be something that we didn't have last year. We had Colin Miller, which he was good for us while he was. But, I mean, if you're going to take a guy who you really want to kind of log it down defensively at the most important time of the year, Chris Tanev is going to be kind of an X factor on that D-core for the Stars.
Yeah, and the guy you're kind of asking to fill that role during the playoffs last season was Yanni Hakanpää. And he's looking like the number 5, number 6 guy right now for the Stars, which that just shows you how much better this Stars team is, that he's sliding down that far, as well as who we haven't even talked about yet, Dodonov sliding so far down in the forward group. I mean, kind of sad. Yeah, kind of sad for those guys, but it shows how great this Stars team is and how well positioned they are for a deep run in the playoffs.
And then we're not even talking about swapping Duchesne with Domi. I mean, that's a huge difference. It's made the Sagan and Marchment line absolutely insane for the entire season, too. I mean, this isn't like, oh, deadline Domi, and they got a little bump and got faster. I mean, this has been going on all season long. We know what we're going to get from those guys.
And it's a massive bump, not a little bump. That line is fantastic. They slowed down, actually, when the Stars were playing their best at the end there. But especially during the playoffs, 3 big forwards that can skate, that's scary.
Lots of talk in the chat about just defensemen in general, individually. We got Ardell talking about Nils Lundqvist. Vegas is a terrible matchup for him. That is very true, I think. This is a very experienced team, especially in the playoffs, and they with all the experience they got last year. And Vegas has got a little bit of everything. They've got a little bit of speed, a little bit of nastiness to them. They've got scoring. They've got pretty good, defensive depth, and they've got guys on the blue line that can also score. So, especially when it comes to the defensive zone, that's something that is very true. That it's not a good matchup for Nils Lundqvist.
Yeah, and that's where I'll go into how we've played Nils Lundqvist in the final games of the season. He's played 9 minutes. I mean, the other 5 are taking 20, and he's taking 9. That's how it's playing out. That's for sure how it's going to play out in the Vegas series. And if we get Hakanpää back, then who are they exploiting? I mean, you look at the lineup. Who are you exploiting? Your option is now Ryan Suter.
You can exploit some Jani Hakanpää.
Yeah, I think they would go after Hakanpää.
I mean, not physically, but the forecheck can expose some defense.
Not nearly as much as they would be able to do to Lundqvist, is what I'm thinking.
That's true, because he is 6 inches taller. That does help a lot and much heavier. So, and that's Ardell again. We will see the 5D man play the load, like you said, James, and until Hakanpää gets right. Even when Hakanpää gets right, I just don't see him getting that much more. Maybe 12 minutes a night I would average. So
he'll get a little bit more.
That's all we need
because of penalty kill, and that's the only reason I think.
And that's fair. That's a good point to make, because right now we've been having to rely on even Miro to play some penalty kill time.
Yeah,
going towards the end of the season here. So, I do want to get into a couple of stats, and y'all can just react to them as you go. But when you take a look at the goals for and the goals against, it does sort of kind of tell a story in the fact that one team is definitely better at both, in my opinion, than the other. So the Stars had 294 goals. They were second in the NHL, and only to they were number 1?
No, I think they only lost it by 1 goal.
Oh, by 1 goal. Okay. I was about to say, I was like, I swear I checked on that. But obviously the Avalanche were number 1 in goal scoring. And then Vegas had 263 goals for. Goals against, the Stars got a lot better at this as the season went along. But 232 for the Stars and 243 for the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Stars have a lot more goals for. They're able to rely upon their offense a little bit more. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, I think the only way they're going to be able to pull this off against the Stars is we're probably going to see these 3-1, 4-2 lower goal scoring games compared to, like, if we were playing Edmonton, for example, and we were seeing these 7-5, 6-4s. I think that's the best way for them to beat the Dallas Stars. Fair?
Yeah, I think if the game opens up, I think the Stars have the upper hand. The only way that would not be true is if Eichel, Marchessault, and Stone take over the series, which is possible. I mean, those guys are good enough to be the difference makers. But as long as the Stars keep rolling like they are right now, getting depth, getting scoring from all over the ice, it's not going to matter how good that one line is, because the Stars will just overwhelm them.
Yeah, and here's my tidbit of the goals for. So Ryan mentioned we'd been a lot better going down the stretch. Before, all the way through February, the Stars were 18th in goals against. Guess what they were from March 1st to April 19th today?
What were they, James?
They are first overall in goals against in the last 2 months of the season. They are first overall.
And that's with the offense still sort of kind of clicking. So that's very good news.
And you know what helps that is a Jay Gottinger that looks like Jay Gottinger again. Yeah, more stuff that the Stars are just clicking on now, right at the exact right time.
So if you had to give the advantage when it comes to the offensive side of the puck, obviously you have to give it to the Stars. Because even last year when the Stars only had 2 real lines that were scoring at a consistent rate, you could give that advantage to Vegas last year. But this year, all 4 lines are going. Even the 4th line, they're contributing every once in a while with a goal and some really good momentum building shifts as well. So I would absolutely give the edge to the Stars when it comes to the forwards.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be tough to find a place where Vegas gets the edge. This is a 1-8 series. The Stars, we've already said, they're the team to beat. I mean, I don't think Vegas really tops the Stars in any category.
The one category they top is star power, truly. I mean, Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, once he miraculously gets healed, those are going to be, and Marchessault, those are going to be really hard people to shut down. But I mean, really, I think the catalyst for that is Jack Eichel. You shut Jack Eichel down, this Golden Knights team looks a lot more cuddly than they were before.
Very true. Yeah, and we've talked about how good the Stars are at playing those types of teams that have that one big guy in the 1C slot. So I think the Stars are able to handle that fairly easily. And I think you can gear your defensive strategy of the game in that direction. And as long as DeBoer is on top of his game like he always is with line changes and getting correct defensive pairings out there, it's not going to be an issue.
Okay, so when you look at a wonderful stat to have, James, and the fact that we are first overall in goals against since March 1st. That is absolutely a huge thing going for us, because that was something that we viewed as kind of a very, very much so like a weakness in the Stars game, was their defensive game. And that's one of the stats that a lot of people use is their goals against. And I think the goal scoring has kind of tailed off a little bit, but let's bring up the goaltenders for the series. The Stars are only going to go as far as Jake Ottinger can take them. If we have to go to Scott Wedgwood, I think that we are in a big kind of territory if we have to get to that point. And then when you look at the other side, you've got two goalies in Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill, one who has had a better season than the other, but Aiden Hill won him the cup last year. But Logan Thompson has been the better goalie. So we don't even know which goalie we're going to see probably in game one. So what's y'all's thoughts on the goaltending for both teams?
Yeah, goaltending, the Stars, obviously, we feel comfortable again now that we got Otter back at the end of the season, playing extremely well. That goals against stat that you talked about, James, I think a large part of that is due to one, Tanev, but the bigger one is Otter coming back with full force. Vegas's goalies, they've shown that they are actually young goalies this year, and that they had some hot seasons last year and the year before for Thomas and Aiden Hill, respectively, but they don't have that consistency yet. That being said, they still have the ability to get hot like Aiden Hill did last season during the playoffs. That kind of came out of nowhere for Vegas. So it could come out of nowhere again. But again, that's another if that we're saying for Vegas while we have a yes and for the Stars.
And the thing that we have to hope with Ottinger is that he continues this form. And by the way, the stick save in the game against the Blues, that was
skill.
That was the absolute stupidest thing I've ever seen. I actually thought for a split second before I made the little playoff video that I did to try and splice it in there real quick before I went and posted it on social media, because I was just like, there's not another save that's even equivalent to that other than the paddle save he made against Arizona. But anyways, that's a huge thing that we've seen from the Stars, in the fact that Ottinger has kind of turned his game around, and so has the defense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's definitely a lucky play, but that kind of shows you where Otter's at too, though. He's feeling it right now. He's in a groove.
Yeah, when he's getting those big impact saves is when we've seen him at his best.
And we haven't seen him get worse where the pressure gets turned up.
Especially not this year. He has gotten better as it has gotten more important for the Stars to go after the conference and even had a shot at the President's Trophy. But anyways, look at the defense. We got lots of defensive questions for both teams, mostly on the injury front for the Vegas Golden Knights. And on the other side, we see I don't want to say a revamped defense for the Stars, because it's not really. It's just players in different positions than they were last year. Harley was lower in the depth chart. We did not have Chris Tanev. Lundqvist was not even an option for the Stars in the playoffs and never saw the ice like the last 30 games of the season, including playoffs. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting take to see how like Alex Pietrangelo comes back and how if he's going to be 100%. I don't think he is, but to see how he plays against the Stars. And then we're going to see how, and one of the biggest questions for me is how Thomas Harley is going to, I mean, he's not just, a defenseman in the Stars organization now has a lot of promise. He is the number 2 guy, and that is a big role to fill. And that's something I am excited to see if he can kind of fulfill that and bring his game up to another level in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is the blue line is definitely where this series is not similar to last series. I mean, last season the Stars were way outclassed on the blue line when it came to the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, the Stars had the best defenseman in that series. Well, the Knights probably had the 6th next best. So it was pretty. We're pretty outmatched in the depth there. Stars have caught up in that department a lot, especially if you add Hakanpää back in there, who is a little bit better than Nils, I would say, especially when you just add the size in the playoffs. That does make a difference there. And yeah, I think the advantage that Vegas had in that department last season is gone now. And I think the Stars are comfortable with where their blue line is at, just the same way Vegas is. Obviously, Vegas is still strong. If Pietrangelo comes back, they'll still have the better blue line if he's actually healthy. But it's not a weakness for the Stars the way it was last season.
At least not as big of a weakness.
Yeah, well, I mean, any other team in the league would take this blue line from the Stars. I think Vegas is one of the few teams that has a better one. There's probably 4 teams that have a better blue line than the Stars right now, and that's one.
But the way that they're constructed right now, even with Nils Lundqvist or even with Jani Hakanpää as that number 6 guy, this decor is good enough to win the Stars of Stanley Cup, I feel, especially since the addition of Chris Tanev. So this is going to be a really big thing that we see from the Stars. And I think Chris Tanev, like a couple of people have mentioned already, is going to be a bigger factor than we think. And
absolutely,
I really hope he is a bigger factor than we think. And one of the things that was talked about in chat over here as well that I was already thinking about was, Miro Heiskanen has not played the same amount of minutes that he has in previous seasons because he has more help. And because, players like Thomas Harley has kind of stepped up, and Esa Lindell has been able to consistently stay at the same level where he's needed to be. And then the addition of Chris Tanev has also helped that. And then Jani Hakanpää is able to play on the penalty kill side of the game as the 6th defenseman when he comes back in. So I think that's really going to be super, super helpful. And the one thing that does worry me about this decor is we talk about the depth on the offensive side of the game for the forwards with the Stars, and the fact that we have a 5th line that we could probably take out the 4th line and throw the 5th line in there and it would be just fine. They don't have that kind of depth on the blue line. I think we have guys that can fulfill in on the bottom pairing, and you could throw in a Derek Pouliot or Petrovic or anybody like that, and they would be fine. But we lose one of our top 4 guys. We lose Miro, Harley, Esa, or Tanev, and I think we're in a really, again, another big place. And we're not there yet, obviously, but that's still something that does concern me.
I mean, that's true of any team in the league. If someone loses their goalie or one of their top defensemen or one of their top forwards, it's going to be a problem. But I don't think very many teams, even in the playoffs, have a number 7 defenseman who played almost the entirety of the NHL season. I mean, that is a huge benefit for the Stars. That is defensive depth. We may not like him as much as other players, obviously. He's our number 7. We're not gonna. But that is good, solid depth. No other team is going to have a number 7 that has played as many games as Nils Lundqvist has. And yeah, we would like to have Hanley, and then if we had Hanley still, we'd be saying, man, we've got the best depth, that blue line too. But our blue line is still solid. And if we do get some kind of injury in the top, I mean, we could still see some Swiss player come over late in the playoffs as well. That's still definitely a possibility, because I mean, that can kind of be shocking, but Harley almost did that. I mean, what did he have? 5 games before the
6.
playoffs happened?
It's
6
6,
games
and they
before the
went on a
playoffs happened.
6-game winning streak. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So, yeah, it'd be a little bit crazy, but when you're trying to win a Stanley Cup, you might want a little bit of crazy sometimes. So, yeah. I think it's better than you're projecting it to be.
The one thing about the whole Liam Bichsel thing is he has made the Stanley Cup finals of the Swiss League. So if he comes back, I don't know how much gas he's going to have. He is playing like 23.
He'll find some gas, I'm sure.
I mean, I know he's young.
Tell him
but
he's
still.
making his NHL debut in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He'll find some gas.
Adrenaline will purely carry him over the line.
I guess that's fair. Too. But okay, I'm gonna throw a couple more stats at you guys and just see what you think. Okay, so there's a couple of stats that are very interesting to me, and one of them is this: when the Stars are very good, whether they score the first goal or whether they don't score the first goal. Obviously, you want to score the first goal, but for the Stars, they're 29, 6, and 5 when they score first. When they trail first, they're 23, 15, and 4. So that's a good stat for either direction when it comes for the Stars.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting one for the Vegas Golden Knights. Same stat. If they score first, they're 31, 9, and 5. So it is extremely important for the Vegas Golden Knights to score first. If they don't score first, they are 14, 20, and 3 when that happens. So if you're the Dallas Stars, if you're Pete DeBoer, you are preaching starting off quick and going after them right off the bat and getting that first goal, because more than likely, if you score that first goal, that is a extreme negative boost or unboost, I guess you should say, to the Vegas Golden Knights. I thought that was an interesting stat and an interesting stat, and I thought I would bring it up.
Yeah, you know what sucks for Vegas, though, is that they're playing the team that's one of the best at coming from behind. So even if they do get that first goal, you're playing a team that's really good at finding ways to overcome that, too. So, I mean, honestly, when we're talking about this, it makes me feel better and better about the Stars' chances against Vegas.
If you look at purely stats, the Stars are going to beat them in 4. The problem is the Vegas Golden Knights have like 2 or 3 people who are going to miraculously be healed game 1. And that's going to change what their stats would look like if they were playing at the end of the season. So that's where Ryan says there's these untangibles. And
there are.
There's just more tangibles for the Stars than untangibles for the Golden Knights, I think.
Yeah. And I think now's a good time to do what everyone thought that the Stars fans would do and complain about the people that are going to magically appear in game 1. What do y'all think about that? Because it's kind of stupid. I think we're going to see Pietrangelo and Stone in game 1, which is what, $15 million added to the payroll the first game of the playoffs.
It's something ridiculous like that, but I mean, I can't really blame them. They played the system, and it's within the rules. So
it's within the rules. It's within the rules. I'll agree with you there. Here's what I have a problem with. Mark Stone has gotten hurt in February 3 years straight and healed miraculously mid-April. 3 years straight, okay? 2 years, okay, fine, coincidence. 3 years, it's not a coincidence anymore, man. Like, we're getting to the point where it genuinely looks like he is faking injuries to get on LTR, which is the stupidest thing ever to think, because it's a hockey player. You want to play. But how can you not look at that and be like, it's the same thing every year? They get $9 million in cap space free to use.
Oh, and by the way, not to mention, they also went out and got the San Jose Sharks' best player in Thomas Hertl, and they've got those 3 guys down the center. Forgot about Thomas Hertl, who was good to end the season for the Vegas Golden Knights too. So you don't, if Mark Stone doesn't get hurt, they're not able to go out and make that exactly. They're not able to make that deal, and Thomas Hertl is not on the roster. And they also went out and got the best available defenseman on the market other than Chris Tanev and Noah Hannafin. So that's also frustrating too, because Pietrangelo was also on LTIR. So
they took off a number one forward. They took off a number one defenseman, added another number one forward, added another number one defenseman, and then they're bringing back the other two number one forwards and defensemen. I mean, it's super frustrating. It it is technically in the rules. It's only in the rules. It's only within the rules because there's no punishment for falsely reporting a player is injured because no one thought that anyone would do that. But I mean, so technically, yes, they haven't broken a rule, but they've definitely broken the spirit of it. The LTIR is for players who are injured for a long period of time. That's what it's for. No one thought it would be used as cap circumvention, and they figured it out, but it should be fixed, and it should have been fixed the first time it happened. And it still hasn't been, and that's because it's tied to larger organizations, which, as we've seen with Arizona stuff, it can slow things down. But it's gotta change quicker than now. It's gotta be tomorrow.
The reason why the rule is what it is because of the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you look at Toronto's cap page and you look at who is on the LTIR for them, those players are not playing again. They are not. They are not going to be on the roster until next year, if they even do that. They have lots of players who are hurt and their careers ended. That is what the rule is for, and that's not really what the rule is being used for most teams.
Yeah. So, yes, they're following the rules. I'm still upset about it, and I think the rule needs to change.
okay, so here is another interesting stat that I had, and I just have one more, and then I'll open up the floor to y'all about whatever else y'all want to talk about. But this was something that I don't think it's that big a deal, but people were pointing it out. So in 1-goal games, the Vegas Golden Knights actually have a better winning percentage than the Dallas Stars, which is kind of crazy. So for Vegas, they have a 607 points percentage, so 0.607. The Stars have a 0.575. So it's not a drastic difference, but there is a difference there. But when you look at the 2-goal game margin, it's ridiculous. So if the Stars have a 0.800 winning percentage in a 2-goal game. For the Vegas Golden Knights, they have a 0.471. So that is absolutely a drastic difference. So I also thought that was interesting to kind of pull up and talk about.
Yeah, what that tells me is not that Vegas is better in close games. It's that the Stars make games close, even when they shouldn't be. Like that's one of the things that the Stars were great at this season is finding ways to get back into games that they shouldn't have won. And that's something Vegas hasn't done this season. They haven't been the team that would claw back into the games. Like you said, Ryan, they win when they are winning the whole game. That's the way that they win hockey games. And I think that's why that stat is kind of there. I think the only reason people are talking about it is because it's one of the few stats that point at Vegas being the better team in the series.
Yeah. And you have to kind of grasp at something stats wise. And that is, yeah, I mean, it's at least valid. I mean, they've won more games that have been 1-goal games. But I mean, you look at the Stars, we come back a lot. There's lots of times this season where we've come back within one and lose. Like it was just not enough time, just barely to not get back in it. And it's not something that I've seen Vegas do this year in the regular season, which is opposite of last year. That used to be like their MO when they came into the league, was that their games were never over because they constantly came back with big, huge third period comebacks. That's just not a thing for them anymore.
And now that's the Colorado Avalanche. Like it could be a 4-1, 5-0, 6-3 game or whatever, and you just can't take out the Golden Knights, the Colorado Avalanche. That's one thing that is scary about them as well. So. Okay, I don't really have anything else that I wanted to mention. I know there's probably a lot of things we haven't talked about, but is there anything that you guys would like to talk about that we probably should or have not mentioned?
Nope, I don't think so. I think the Stars are the better team this series, but I think Vegas has enough pieces, like you said, enough intangibles, Ryan or James, whoever said that first, that they're going to be able to make this a way better series than a 1-8 should be. And I think this is the series to watch in the first round.
I don't know, Chris. There's a couple there.
There's
So
some really good
there's
series.
some really good. This is I'm like Saturday and Sunday. I'm sitting down and watching all of the games, like whatever's on. It's ridiculous. I'm super excited. Now I know we're already at 50 minutes, so let me ask you guys this: we can wait for the bracket challenge and maybe do it maybe tomorrow or something like that, or we can do it now. I just know that it would take us over the hour limit. What would y'all like to do?
I think we could do it. Let's just do it kind of quick.
Okay, all right. Let's
We'll
go ahead and get
abbreviate
into
it. Is that
So-
okay, James?
Yep.
So by the way, if you want to go and join our Discord server, James has set up a Starcastic Remarks bracket challenge, and you can go there and submit your picks for who you think is going to win each series and how many games. And I think at the end they even allow you a thing like how many goals is going to be scored in the Stanley Cup Finals or something like that. Is that correct?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the tiebreaker for if you guess everything right.
That's stupid. That's crazy. Okay, so what I do want to get into is each of the series, and we'll just kind of go quickly. So since we are talking about the Stars and the Golden Knights, obviously, what is y'all's predictions for this series and how many games?
Stars in 7.
Yeah, I have Stars in 5. I'm really hot on the Stars right now. I think Otter's playing spectacularly. He hasn't played better at all this year at all. I mean, this is the best he's been. And I feel like the Golden Knights have struggled recently. That's going to be hard to start out game 1.
I'm going to say that the Stars are going to win it in 6, just for irony purposes. Just to say that they're going to finish it in 6 because the Vegas Golden Knights did that to us last year.
And Jamie Benn's going to get cross-checked into the ice this series.
By Mark Stone. Yeah, exactly. Okay. The next series is really interesting, guys. Winnipeg and Colorado. That's another really intriguing series because Colorado is going to be a huge issue going into the postseason. And Winnipeg to end the season, I think they were on like a 6-game winning streak or 7-game winning streak, something like that.
Yep.
And nobody saw that. So now more people are starting to be like, well, is Winnipeg going to actually win the series? Is Colorado going to falter? Or are they going to kind of pick themselves up from where they were last time? What do y'all think?
I think it's another great series. I'm glad we won the division. I think the Avs are still going to win it though. I don't believe that the Jet style and the Bone system can beat teams this way in the current playoffs. I don't think that you can survive for 4 straight games to win. So I'm gonna pick the Avs. I'm gonna take them in 7 though because of what you said, Ryan. The Jets are flying and the Avs are falling. That one was good.
I'm taking the Jets in 7. I think this is going to be a really close one. I don't think we're going to see the 7-0 scoreline that we did a few nights ago.
No.
That's not going to happen again.
For that game in particular, it's going to make this series kind of nasty. It's going to be, I think this might end up being the most physical one just because of how their season series is played out.
It's going to be nasty. It's going to be really nasty. And that, assuming we are able to defeat the Vegas Golden Knights, that is good news for the Stars because that means whoever they face in the second round, one of those two teams, is probably going to be a little bit more messed up than hopefully we will be. So that's just keeping our fingers crossed, looking ahead for the future that may or may not be there. I'm going to pick Winnipeg in 6, and here's the reason why. And it's specifically for one reason only, and it's goaltending. When you look at the goaltending for the Colorado Avalanche, Georgiev has not been good at all. His nickname for this season from the Avalanche fan base is Forgiev because he gives up 4 goals or more on a consistent basis. And then Anunin, who is their backup, has been okay, but he's unproven. And then when you look at the other side, who do you have? Connor Hellebuck, who has been arguably one of the best goalies the past decade and probably has a chance of winning the Vezina this year. So that's the one thing because I think Winnipeg has enough offense to counteract the star power from Colorado. And
Disagree.
I just think it's going to be I don't even think it's going to be 7. I think it's going to be 6, and it's going to be the Jets. Okay. Another interesting one. Vancouver and Nashville. Vancouver started off the year ridiculous. I don't want to say they faltered, but they were kind of
Slow down.
meh, kind of 500 the rest of the way. And then Nashville is interesting because they were kind of meh for most of the season. And then they had that explosion of an 18-game point streak where they went 16-0-2 right after the Stars blew them out of the water 9-2. So where do y'all see that series headed?
Don't believe in the Predators. Canucks in 5.
I don't believe in the Canucks. Nashville in 6. The Canucks have had a great season. It has been really nice. They've had some good shooting luck. That is just true if you look at the stats for the most part. In the last like 20, 30 games of the season, they've beaten like 2 or 3 playoff teams, and that's it. So it's going to be a tough one. I think the big deal with this series is does Vancouver get their starting goaltender back? If Demko comes back, that changes my mind a little bit, I think. But right now, I think Nashville has a really good opportunity to upset them on a team who hasn't been in the playoffs for a bit and had a great regular season, but that really feels like that's all it is.
I'm with James on this one. I'm going to say Nashville, but I'm going to say Nashville in 7. I think it's going to take a little more than we think for Nashville to win this because they just don't have the kind of star power that Vancouver does. I mean, Pettersson's been good, Miller's been good, but again, goaltending is so key. And you got Saros on one end and Demko, who he's not questionable. He's one of the better goalies in the NHL, but he's coming off of one game that he got at the end of the season, and he was hurt for a good chunk of the time. So I think that's going to be too much for Vancouver to overget. So I say Nashville in 7. Okay, Edmonton and LA, another interesting one. What do y'all think on this one?
Lucky dog, Edmonton. They're gonna sweep them. I mean that star power against that goalie. McDavid is going to have a field day. He's going to put up the craziest first round numbers we have seen. That's the Oilers in 4.
Yeah, you say that, Chris, but that's the same thing that they did last year, and they still almost lost the series against them. Also, I have a little bit of bias because I've chosen LA the last 3 years now because I'm picking them for the 3rd year straight in 7 games.
You actually are taking LA.
Do it. LA's finally gonna beat Edmonton in the first round. It's gonna happen. I swear.
Okay.
It'll happen.
No.
I'm a hopeful, Ryan. I'm a hopeful, okay?
You can be a hopeful all you want as you watch McDavid score like 5 empty netters. This is not going to be close. I'm going to give it 5 games, but because I think LA will be able to pull out at least 1 game, but it's going to be Edmonton in 5. That's who I've got.
See,
this is the least.
I think y'all are forgetting this is the exact same thing we thought last year as well, and the year before that as well. And both of those series went 7. I mean, it's going to be a slugfest. There's a lot of history here. These teams do not like each other. It's gonna be a tough one.
I just think this Edmonton team is so much better than last year's Edmonton team, though. It's
agree.
so much more well-rounded, especially, I mean, they were the doghouse in the beginning of the year. There was no team that felt worse about themselves than the Oilers. And I feel like this team has gotten so much more well-rounded defensively. They're getting some somewhat decent goaltending for the first time. And I think having a mediocre hockey team around McDavid is enough for him to go berserk.
I think they've been getting really good goaltending from Stuart Skinner. That's just my personal opinion. But I mean, you need to go look at his stats. His stats might be a little skewed because the defense he plays in front behind of. But still, he has been very good for the Oilers. So, okay, so those are our Western Conference pick. Eastern Conference, first one, Battle of Florida. You got the Florida Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is another similar one, I think, to the Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. It sucks for Florida to have to play Tampa Bay in the first round. What do y'all think?
I think Tampa Bay is just way different team than they have been. Dynasty's over. Kucherov drug them all the way here, and I think he's not gonna be able to do enough on his own to defeat the Panthers, especially when the Panthers players like my Big Daddy Kachuk is gonna be able to really wake up when the playoffs get going. I mean, that's where that team is gonna thrive. I feel like they showed it last year. They weren't as good a team as they were this year, and they showed that they're built for playoffs. So this Panthers team is ready to go.
Yeah. I'm with Chris. The Panthers are they've looked mean for the past 3 years now. And last year when they had a pedestrian regular season, they came into the playoffs and they just tore everyone to shreds. I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to go 7 still, but I think the Panthers are still going to just be able to win that pretty easily as you can win a 7-game series. It'll be weird one, I think.
Yeah, Ryan's muted, so I'm going to talk again. I'm going to say that the Panthers are going to win that one in 6.
I'm with you, Chris. That's exactly my sentiment on this. I don't think Tampa Bay is a bad team. They have not had the depth the last couple of seasons that they had for their
just not good.
They're still if you make the playoffs, you're still a good team. Other than maybe one team. We'll get to them here in a second. but I don't know how this happened, but we'll get to it. Okay, anyways, moving on. This is just my most exciting series for me, other than the Stars series, because I just want to see a downtrodden, upset fan base when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs again. They have to play the Boston Bruins again. And the Bruins come in as the second division winner, I guess you could say, and Toronto comes in as third in the division. So where do you put these guys at? Does Toronto have a chance here?
No, Toronto is not nearly as good a team as they were last year. And you talk about how Florida's built for the playoffs. Toronto's not. So I feel like the Bruins are gonna take care of them, and it'll be back to sad boy seasons for Toronto. So start the counter now for how many years we've gone without a Toronto round 1 win.
Anyway,
Boston, they did beat the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, Chris. Okay. So it's not a first.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying restart the counter.
Oh, I see. I thought you were saying continue the counter. I was like, didn't they just do that last
restart
year?
Okay. This Boston is Toronto's worst nightmare. I mean, it is literally the big scary demon that hides underneath their beds and gives them nightmares at night. There is not a worse first round matchup they could have gotten out of everyone in the East, either division. Honestly, it is the Boston Bruins just because of nightmare fuel. I'm going to choose the Bruins in 7 because that's what I want to happen. Third time would be hilarious. That's a little mean, but I don't think it's far from the truth. I mean, this game's probably going deep.
Fine, I'll be the only one. I'm gonna take Toronto, and it's gonna take 7.
Martel called it 20 minutes ago.
No way.
I know.
Ryan's picking Toronto.
Ryan's gonna pick Toronto. Yes, I know, but there's logic to this. It's not just because I want Toronto to win. Okay,
give me the logic.
The logic is this Boston team is nowhere close to the same team that they were even 2 seasons ago. All right, there's no more Patrice Bergeron to help you. There's no David Krejci. You have no center depth, and they had a lot of luck at the beginning of the season when it came to guys having really good starts. When you look at the way that they have been since January, and even after, maybe even since February, they have not been that great. They have not. And I don't see them being able to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I know, Chris, that you say that the Toronto Maple Leafs don't look as good as they were last year. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. And not from an emotional standpoint, I'm with my boy Max Domi as well. I want to see him win. I don't want to see see him lose again in the first round, and I want to see him get a chance to at least go far. So that's why I'm picking the Toronto Maple Leafs in 7.
What are
I
their
think if you have Ryan Reeves, anywhere sniffing your roster's not very good.
Nah, I don't agree with that. But Ryan Reeves is not a factor.
Goaltending is going to kill Toronto,
and that is fair. That is the one thing that I'm just like, that's going to kill us. But when you look at the defense, when you look at the offense, when you look at the star power, Toronto has that more so than the Boston Bruins do. So that's why I'm saying the Leafs in 7.
Yikes. Anyway,
that's crazy.
Okay, and let's move on to basically.
Do you believe in the curse?
This is probably the biggest trap of all traps I've ever seen.
This would be more hilarious than Lightning getting swept by the Blue Jackets.
Yes, absolutely. And we are, of course, speaking about the New York Rangers, who win the President's Trophy, and then the Washington Capitals, who make the playoffs by the hair of their chinny chin chins with an empty net goal against the Philadelphia Flyers to win the game 2-1. And they are the only.
They were handed the win.
And they are the only team in the playoffs and one of the worst teams in the Cap era history when it comes to their goal differential. Do you know how bad? Don't look it up. Do you know how bad their goal differential? Okay, James, don't say anything. Chris,
I'm pretty sure it's like at 35.
That's a 35. Yes. Minus 37 is their goal differential for this.
That is worse than the Arizona Coyotes, by the way. That is 6th worst in the entire league. It is 6th worst in the entire league.
And they made the playoffs.
You know what we need to do?
Astounding.
You know what we need to do? Expand the playoffs.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Expand them. We need more teams like this.
No, we don't. Absolutely not. If anything, St. Louis should be in the playoffs and Washington should be going home.
Anyway, Rangers in 4.
Yeah, this is my sweep series as well.
I want to say Capitals in 7 just for mass chaos, but I'm gonna say Rangers in 5.
If they don't get it in 5, they are in trouble, though. I'll tell you that much.
That's true.
And the curse is alive, and we will be watching that series very carefully. Okay, last first round series: Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. Who you got?
Yeah, I think the New York Islanders were drugged here by a good emotional coach. They gave them the emotion they needed when they needed it, but the Canes have been here too many times. They've missed out too many times. They've still got a solid hockey team. They're not going to lose in the first round. This is an experienced, good hockey team. They're going to take care of it. It's the Canes. I'm giving them 6, though, because almost purely because of the WA factor.
It's going to be a tough one because of the way the Islanders play. It just seems to work in the playoffs, and it's not always stifling defense either. It's just that they just hit people really hard, and it's a tough way to win a series, and most of the time it doesn't work. So especially with Carolina's deadline acquisitions, I think they should have this one pretty handily. I'm choosing Carolina in 5.
And okay, so y'all know from years past that I have been more bullish on the New York Islanders than most people have. This year I'm not. I'm not taking them to win this series. Carolina has been good. They've had good goaltending, especially since Frederik Andersen came back, and then they've got Kochetkov, who it was good for them while both Antti Ranta and Frederik Andersen were hurt. Well, actually, Ranta might have just been bad and got sent down. But regardless, he was good filling in as the starting goaltender role. And they have to make the conference final so they can get swept. So, I mean, so they – sorry, there's a little bit of a shot. But I think it's going to take a little more than we expect as well. Just kind of like what James said. That is the one thing about the Islanders is they're not a good regular season team, but they are absolutely built for the playoffs. And so I think it's going to take 6, and I think the Hurricanes are going to win it. So, okay. So in the West, let's just go person by person real quick. And who you got for your semifinals? Chris, who you got?
I got the Stars beating the Avs, and then I have the Oilers beating the Canucks.
Okay. James, who you got?
I have Dallas beating Winnipeg, and I have the Kings beating Nashville.
The Kings beating
Wow,
Nashville. Wow,
that is bold. Okay, I like it.
James likes the
I
Kings.
likes it.
I like the
Okay.
Kings.
I have got Dallas and Winnipeg, and I've got Nashville and Edmonton. I've got the Dallas Stars beating Winnipeg in 7. I think it's going to take a little more than we expect. And I've also got Edmonton defeating the Nashville Predators in 6. So that's who I got in the West. Who you got in the East, gentlemen? Chris?
The East, I am mixing it up. The Panthers are going to lose to the Bruins. The Bruins are going to exercise the demons, and they're going to take back what they lost in the playoffs, and they're going to somehow beat the Panthers. I don't know how. Gut feeling. And then, oh yeah, I have to keep going. Same thing on this one. Y'all know I love the Hurricanes. I can't help it. I have the Hurricanes beating the Rangers. I think the Rangers aren't as comfortable in that position as the Hurricanes will be. And I think the Hurricanes will take advantage because of that. And I think their goaltending will be able to help them as well.
So mine's similar to Chris. I have the Panthers over the Bruins, though. I still think the Panthers are just they're not going to have it still. They're going to want to get back there and have a real shot at the cup. Last year, they were injured up and down the lineup. They want another chance at this. And I have the Hurricanes over the Rangers as well. I'm kind of with Chris. I feel like the experience that the Hurricanes have is really going to help them in that one.
I love this comment by Sumaya. Rangers lose in 6 just because they have Matt Rimpey and he annoys me. That's it. I love that comment. That's a funny one. I have got Florida and Toronto and the Rangers and the Hurricanes. Florida is gonna beat the Leafs. It's not even gonna be close in my opinion. Florida is gonna wipe the floor with them. It's gonna be 5 games, and I know I was bullish on them against Boston, but I'm not bullish on them against the Panthers because they're gonna go. We want Florida again, and they're just gonna lose. So, as for the Rangers and the Hurricanes, I think that the Hurricanes are just a better built team, and the way they play, the style they play is better than the Rangers. So I think that one's going to go to 7 though. So I'm going to say Canes in 7 for that one. So in the Western Conference Final, who you got, Chris?
I got the Stars playing the Canes in the Stanley Cup Final. And
Western Conference Final. Western Conference Final.
Western Conference Final. I skipped one. I have the Stars beating the Oilers. And then in the East, since I ruined it, I have the Canes beating the Bruins.
Canes beating the Bruins. Okay, James?
All right, so I got the Stars over the Kings. This is where the Kings Cinderella story ends, is in the Western Conference Finals.
I was hoping.
Very sad. Very sad. In the East, I'm picking the Panthers. Like I said, I really don't think that there's much that could stop them. And especially the Hurricanes are cursed. Okay. They get no merit till they get out of the conference final. Every single time they're going to get swept there until proven otherwise.
But I think the first time they get out of the conference final, bam, cup.
You had to say that, didn't you, Chris? Thank you, Chris. In the my conference finals, I've obviously got the star. Or I already forgot.
Nice.
Oh no, I didn't. It's the Stars and the Oilers. I'm stupid. Sorry. And I've obviously got the Stars here. I'm gonna be a homer just because I think it's gonna take 6. I don't think it's gonna be 7, because if it goes to 7, I think the Stars are in trouble. So I'm gonna say Stars win in 6. And then in the Eastern Conference Final, I've got the Panthers and the Canes are going to beat the Panthers, in my opinion. That one's going to go to 7. So
we've all got the same. Oh, no, we don't have the same final. James picked the Panthers. Y'all heard what I just said. I don't care. Stars in 7.
James?
I have the Stars and Panthers. I'm choosing the Stars. Obviously, this is a Stars podcast. Of course, we're going to be homer.
We're first in the West. It's not like we're a wild card team. Okay? We have been unbiased in the past and said, well, the Stars are
This is
going to lose.
fully unbiased.
No biases in this entire.
No biases.
Turn off the logos.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. All right, the Stars, and I've got the Canes in the final. I don't care either. You just had to say it, Chris. Stars in 7. There you go. The logos are gone. It's not on the. They're gone. I'm putting them.
We could be on NHL Network right now.
Yeah, no. Anyways, so we have to be Homer here. This is the best team that we have seen in a really long time when it comes to the Dallas Stars. Even better than the team that won the conference in 2015-16. It feels different. The defense is there. The goaltending is absolutely there compared to what we had in 15-16. And there's a lot of other hockey fans that are bullish on this team. So that gives me even more confidence in the fact that they can do it. If we get past the first round, I don't see how we don't get to the Stanley Cup final. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm super excited to get going, but the only bad thing is I have expectations now too, and that could ruin it. So, I mean, when we have that Calgary series, we're not expecting anything. We want to do our best. If we get out of the first round, awesome. But this team has every ability to win the Stanley Cup. So if they don't win the cup, it's going to be disappointing. And that's kind of a weird, I've never been in that position as a Stars fan. It's going to be interesting to see how I react as we go throughout this playoffs.
And it's not just going to be disappointing just for Stars fans either. There's a lot of players on this team who are still looking for their first Stanley Cup. I mean, this is kind of the bandwagon team to hop on, just in terms of, hey, these players haven't gotten a cup yet. So that should be fun too. We'll probably pick up a lot of bandwagon fans.
I mean, we already have. I mean, San Jose's rooting for us. Calgary's rooting for us.
I was about to say,
I'm sure the Preds are rooting for us if they get knocked out. So I think there's a lot of fan bases already rooting for the Stars.
It's going to be very interesting, and I really wish it was this weekend, but we have to wait till Monday.
Oh my goodness, I hate
to hear the first go around of the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there's nothing else that I can think of. Anything else, gentlemen, that we need to discuss?
Is this podcast long enough?
I don't think so. Anyways, I'm going to give this another go because it did not look very good on the last stream. So if you missed it, here's your little hype video that we made. It's posted all around on Starcastic Remarks social media.
Ryan made it.
Yeah, Ryan did a good job.
I don't want any blame.
I don't edit videos.
It took way too long. Y'all don't want to know how long I spent and how late I stayed up trying to put this together, but I had fun. Regardless, here's to help you get ready for the playoffs.
And congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights on their way to the Stanley Cup final for the second time.
Far to win, source the power within, unleash it all again, returning to the fight, victory inside, the crowd will soon ignite, so light up the night, get up, get up, get up. Get up! Your hands are weak, your belly
Along with Chris and along with James, my name is Ryan. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a fantastic afternoon, evening, whenever you guys are listening. We will see you guys again on Monday night when the Stars take on the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 1 of the 24 Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll see you guys.